Okay, we are gonna do the eye now. So I like to spend kind of extra time showing how to color an eye because I feel like drawing an eye that's really realistic really makes the bird come to life. And normally we draw a bird on gray paper, but since we're doing this at home, we're just doing white. So it'll be hard for you to see, but you just kind of want to do a little white dot that is a little bit off center. Okay? Then you are going to take black and almost like an eclipse, you're going to do like a little pupil behind it, behind that white dot. Kind of like that. Then with the black, we are going to show the fact that eyeballs are not flat. They're not circles, right? They're balls, they're spheres. And the way you show that is you want it to get darker as it gets closer to the edge. So we're going to do a darker edge, kind of like that, all the way around. Now, if you have a bird that doesn't have round eyes, like say you have an owl, for example, and you're showing two of the eyes, maybe it looks, you know, like or a hawk might look something like this. Okay, you're going to still do the same thing. You're going to do that white dot off center, but you're going to do it off center both to the same side. Like on this one, I did it both a little to the right. And then you're going to show that pupil behind the white dot. Okay, that looks a little cross-eyed right now. That's because I didn't make those better. Okay, now everybody if you can see the color of your bird's eye, like the iris, you're going to get that color. However, if you have a bird like mine that it looks like the eye is just all black, you're going to get a color to add as an accent, just because it'll make it look nicer. So I chose, since I have a bird with sort of like an orange belly, I'm going to use this sort of orangish brown, and I'm going to add that all around the pupil, and I'm going to be careful not to go over that highlight. And so some birds, like owls, have really distinctive colors in the eye, you know, or like puffins and like seabirds have really weird, crazy looking eyes. You want to draw it just like it looks, okay? However, if you have an all black eye, you want to add a little color even though we can't see it. Okay, then you're going to take black again, and now we're going to do a little bit of shading, and just do the best you can. If your eye is really tiny, it's easier if the eyes are bigger. But I'm going to fade the outside in, kind of over top of the color a little bit. Kind of like you might shade a sphere. Okay? And then, you know, on any eyes, you'll do the same thing. So I'm pressing harder on the outside edge, and then I'm pressing lightly as it gets more towards the middle. And then if you want like your color to be more prominent, you can always go back over top of it again with the color, whatever you think looks good. Now we're ready to start doing the feathers. So you are going to choose 5 colors for every color area. So for example, on my bird, there are 3 color areas. There's blue and sort of like a brownish orange, and then white. Okay, so for the blue, for example, I'm going to always have white and black. That's 2 of my colors. And then I need a light, medium, and dark to go with that. So I've chosen a gray for the light, and then a light blue and a dark blue. And it doesn't have to be like super obvious. So for example, like what if your bird is mostly white? Then what would you do? You could do shades of gray. You could do pastel colors mixed in, like pinks or light blues or light yellows would look really nice. Really light tans, you know. So you don't ever want it to look solid because you're going to be layering colors together. Now think about like what would you use if your bird is mostly black? What color accent colors would look good with that? Maybe purples and blues would look really nice, almost like think of an oil spill, or browns, of course, or shades of gray. Really, like you can kind of layer anything together, and as long as you've got a combination that looks good together, you can make any colored pencils work. Okay, so we are going to work from lightest to darkest. So I'll use black last. And first, well, and actually that's when we're working on darker paper. We'll use white a little bit later. We're gonna, with our light, medium, and dark colors, we're gonna start with the lighter color. Okay, so first I'm gonna look at really carefully on my photo and look at where I feel like the sun is sort of shining on the feathers and they're glowing a little bit. Okay, so look really carefully and notice how some of the feathers are lighter and some are darker within that blue shade. So in the lighter areas, I'm going to put some gray in the area where it looks like the sun's sort of shining on it. And I'll go back and put white on it later. I didn't want to start with white because you wouldn't be able to see it on the white paper. So on the back of the head, and then sort of around the eye. Now, am I doing lines any random direction? No. I'm looking at each feather and I'm paying attention to the length and direction of the feather. So each pencil stroke is kind of like an individual feather. Okay, and it looks like fur at first, but as we start layering the colors together, you'll see it looks really nice. Okay, so there's some gray to start. I can always go back and add more later. Then I'm going to do my light blue, and you want to make sure your pencils are nice and sharp. Hopefully you've got a pencil sharpener. I think it was on the class list. Okay, now this blue is, I would say, one of the main colors. So I am going to do a lot of it. I'm going to just kind of, I'm not going to color, but I'm going to kind of cover the whole thing, paying attention to length and direction. And notice how I'm going out on purpose over top of my pencil lines. You can either do that, or you can just erase them right before you get ready to go over that spot. So what happens if you can't tell what direction your feathers are? That happens sometimes to people, because sometimes it's kind of hard to tell. You can kind of, if you have like a dog or a cat, think about how all their fur lays in one direction. You know, like you don't pet them from their tail to their head. You always go head to tail. And so birds are kind of similar. Like generally, the feathers go along the back of the head and then down the back in that direction. So if you really can't see the feather direction, you can just kind of do it in that way. Or you can ask me and I'll help you. Okay, so I've got some on there. And of course you would keep doing the wing. I'm just going to do the head for right now though. And then you're going to layer your next color. So since this blue is a little darker, I'm not going to do this everywhere. I'm going to kind of look at areas that I feel like have a darker color, and I'm going to layer them in just those areas. So this project is really about careful looking and not thinking in your head, oh, the whole head's blue, I'm just going to color it blue. You're looking at highlights and shadows and doing your best to really layer colors together to show those highlights and shadows. So maybe I'll do this color just really spread far apart out in the middle and just have it, and then have it really close together where it's dark. Starting to look good, huh? Okay, now I'm going to go with black. So some colors you'll use a lot, you know, if that's mostly your bird's color, and some accent colors you'll only use a tiny little bit. Like black, I'm not really going to use very much, I don't think. It's kind of in that area next to the beak there, between the beak and the eye. Okay, and then last I'll go on with white. Now what can happen sometimes if you have too much color on there, it can start to look waxy. And what you can do in that case, that didn't really happen here, but you can go with a pink pencil eraser, or any eraser. I guess I didn't get a pink one, I'll just use this black one, and you can erase really hard if it gets too shiny, you know, and then that'll take off the wax, and then you'll just kind of color, it'll make it easier to color over that spot again. Okay, so this is the basics for how to do really general feathers. I'll make another video for how to do some more specialized feathers. So if this doesn't seem like it works for your bird, check those out. And I'll also make another video for how to do the beak and legs and whatever the thing is it's doing. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to do the beak. So, same as with the way we did for the feathers, you are going to layer colors together for the beak and the feet. You just won't use the feather texture. You'll color in a more solid way, similar to the way we did the eyes. So I'm going to definitely use white and black, no matter what my beak color is. And then this beak looks black in the photo, I would say. So I'm going to use I don't know, maybe my gray again, and then my dark blue, and then maybe another shade of gray, kind of like this. You just have to do the best you can with what colored pencils you have available to you. You know, it's sometimes you have more colors and sometimes you have fewer, so just do the best you can. Okay, so I'm going to start with my light shade right here. Oops. Okay, so there is sort of like a highlight kind of here in the middle, and I'll add some white to that too to make it even lighter in a minute. And then I'm going to go around that with my dark blue. Put a little there. And I'm just trying to kind of layer them together. The key is to see all the colors in the end, even though it seems like they blend together, we want to still be able to see them. All right, there's the bird's nostril. That's the darkest spot. Where else is really dark? In between the beaks, kind of like this. And this like back corner is pretty dark. Underneath is kind of dark. This is definitely the key to doing really realistic stuff, is having all those colors there. Because our brain combines them all. Our brain is like, oh, that's a blue head and a black beak. But in reality, there's lots of colors kind of bouncing in the light that our eyes see, and that's what makes it look really nice. Okay, so something kind of like that with hints of other color. Same for the feet. You would just layer the colors together just like that. Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you how to do larger feathers. So sometimes the feathers are like really individual looking. Like the tails on parrots, for example, might kind of be, you know, like this, like almost like petals, okay? And some birds have feathers that look almost like, I don't know, fish scales, you know, where they're kind of looking like this. So if yours has that, then you do want to draw on these individual feather shapes, just like they look in the photo. And then you're going to kind of color on each feather individually. Usually they kind of like have a mixture of colors. I'll just, since I have the blues out, I'll go ahead and use these. So I like to start with the top down. So like, and you just have to look at your individual feather. So for example, maybe the top is really dark, you know, so like maybe you would start and do like black zigzags, kind of like this on each feather. And then maybe there's a layer, you know, where it's like blue sort of. And then maybe another blue. And I like zigzags because they can they still give that idea of texture without getting it too smooth. Oh, that one I missed the other blue. Okay, and then maybe it's gray or something on the tip. And then white is really nice, and light colors too, like tans and pinks and grays. Actually, I'll just use this gray. Is really nice for mixing. You can, like, after you put a base of this in, you can go back over top. I'll do one white and one gray, and you can see. And if I press hard over top of all of it, it can kind of like just blend it together really nicely. And you can go back and forth with the colors until it just looks the way you want it to look. And again, this is where I was talking about, like, if it gets too waxy, like if you've colored too hard, you can just like erase it and the color won't completely go away, but the wax will go away, and then you can fix whatever you didn't like. I'll try white on this one. I really love using white as a mixer color. It looks really nice. And then same thing for like bigger feathers, but you would just sort of use longer lines, you know, like maybe, you know, underneath they're kind of like this. And you just layer all those colors together. And you do color a little bit more smoothly if it's really huge feathers. Most birds are more like the original one that we did though. Okay, once you have your whole bird done and it looks amazing, then you are ready to draw whatever the bird is standing on. So you don't want to rush through this part because I've people all the time who will draw really beautiful birds and then they'll rush through the extra thing and make it look like a kindergartner did it. So you don't want to have you don't want it to look like two different people drew these. So you want to take your time and draw whatever the bird is standing on so it looks really nice too. And it's going to kind of be the same as like we did for the beak, you know, you're gonna just get all the colors you see. So you want to have, for every color area, you want to have a light, medium, and dark. I'm going to do sort of like a wood grain. So I got kind of like a yellowish and a brown and a gray. And again, you know, like you only have so many colors, so you just have to do the best you can with the colors you've got. And then of course black and white. And I'm gonna just start layering them all together. So for a wood grain, it's kind of, you wanna make sure all your brush strokes kind of go the same direction. And then you just start layering the colors up. Kind of similar to the feathers, I like to get some base colors on first and then go over top of it to blend it together with a lighter color. Just a tiny bit of black, not too much. Okay, and then I'll mix with white. Or I really could have mixed with this, like maybe I'll mix with this tan color actually. Or I'll try both, we'll see what they look like. Alright, here's an area of it where I've mixed with the tan color. And here's an area where I've mixed with white. Maybe the white looks nicer. I don't know. Or you could try both. Yeah, that looks good to do first the tan and then the white on top. You know, and you don't have to draw right on your final right away. You can always like do a test area on another piece and then go back to your final. And then you just start layering it up. You start like adding colors back and forth to make it look the way you want. Okay, the last optional thing that you can do is add like a blurry chalk background. And the way you do this is if you happen to have chalk, or bonus if you happen to have pastels, which is sort of like fancy chalk that comes in squares, you can do a blurry background. And so you'll need a scrap piece of paper, and you'll want to pick the color or just a few colors you want to do based on your bird color. So do you think it would look good to have a bunch of blue in the background if you have a blue bird? I think it probably wouldn't look as good because the bird would sort of like fade into the background. So you want to choose a color that is really different from whatever your main bird colors are. So since my bird is sort of browns and blues, I'm not going to do those in the background. And you can do the background similar to the photo, or you can just do bright, really fun colors. I think I'm going to do greens, like a dark green, and maybe like a peach color in the background. Okay, I thought I had a light green, that's what I wanted. Anyway, okay. So you're not going to color directly on your final. What you want to do is color on your scrap piece of paper. And then you can either use your finger or you can wad up a little tissue, and you're going to pick up all of this dust, and then you're going to sort of do like circles with your finger. And you want to get right up next to the bird, but the chalk can sit on top of the colored pencil, so you want to be careful not to go over top of your bird. And I think it looks best when you do the chalk right up next to the bird, and then it sort of fades out like a glow. And you can either do the whole background chalk, or you can just do an area right next to the bird. And again, this is optional because I know not everybody will have chalk. Okay.